Welcome, everybody. Today is Tuesday, July 19th, 2022. It's the Hannah City Village Council meeting. Everybody, please stand for a moment of the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. He's present now.
These meetings start at 6. I don't know if you knew that.
Do what?
We need to get you a new
Some
one.
of us work for a living.
That's true.
I need to get him a new clock.
The same some of us that voted to change it to 6, right?
All right.
So I will start with public recognition. Mr. Gully, I see you're on. Do you have any input?
No, sir, just watching.
Thank you, sir. Danny, I see Pearson. I see you're on also, sir. Do you have any input? You're muted, Danny. Hopefully the steak's not burning. He was cooking. So. Everybody should have a copy of our July 5th, 2022 minutes. Take a moment, look at those, see if there's any corrections or changes need to be made.
Looks like Danny dropped off. I don't know if he'll come back or not. Yeah, there he is. He and Brandon.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the minute meetings. Second. Motion by Weaver, second by Pearson. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Treasurer's report.
Nothing really to report, just regular bills.
There's my copy.
We're paying that Brian way too much.
That's true.
Motion to approve the treasurer's report as read, I'll send.
Second. Motion by Weaver, second by Pearson. Any further discussion? Or roll call that. Weaver?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Pearson?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Motion carries. Danny, I see you're back. Did you have anything, sir, or are you just listening in?
No, sorry, I was having an audio issue. I couldn't hear you guys. I'm just watching.
Okay, medium well, I'll take mine.
Hey, it's just hamburgers tonight.
Well, those can be made medium well.
Okay.
Brandon.
Oh, yeah. Brandon, you're up, sir?
Good evening. Sorry about the delay. I was having some trouble getting in. I don't have a whole lot. Maybe others might pile on a little bit here, but my understanding is the seal coating is completed. They used probably a little bit less material than you had budgeted. We're still waiting on getting some tickets there to finalize all the quantities and costs there. But Brian, I don't know if you wanted to comment. My understanding is it went well.
It did. We ended up just, they didn't get all of Runkle down. I guess South Runkle, they got probably 40% of it, maybe, something like that, just because they ran out of material. But part of that was they did a little bit extra out here for us and so forth. So, but they'll just bill us for what they used. But I was with Brandon before you got on. We were talking about the fact that we got a call from a guy that lived on Pekin Lane, and he said he was talking to Tracy and said, he said, I'm admittedly a naysayer. I always talk about what the village does terrible and doesn't do right. And he said, but the streets were really done really well, and I was very happy, and you've converted me. So we'll see if it sticks, but it was nice to get some positive feedback. And I think that's a credit not only to the guys that did the work. I think the contractors did a really nice job, but Tracy's work to communicate and Roger's work to be out in front and be out there and talking to the residents and so forth, and the engineer's job. And I mean, I just think everybody did a really nice job. So I think we got a lot of really good feedback. So
I agree wholeheartedly. For as many times as you hear the opposite, it is nice to, you know, people don't often go out of their way to say good things. So I would agree that everybody involved should take solace in that and be proud of the work that was done. So
the other thing, the other reminder I would give people is because of Roger's work and what you guys did with Roger. I mean, we got this done $20,000+ cheaper than what we did it last year, or at the same contractor level. So Roger's worked hard to get, you know, competitive bids as well, and so he's done a nice job on this.
Agreed wholeheartedly. You know, your guidance and his guidance and leadership, and I think the other thing too, and I was very glad to hear it, is you didn't cut corners to do it. You didn't get a substandard product either. So I think we can all be happy with that, and hopefully we'll develop a relationship with a contractor who'd like to do work down in this neck of the woods at a competitive price and do good work. So that's glad to see all the way around. The only other thing I had, Brian, and I know it was kind of late in the day, as I was circling back to some things that have been been on the pile. I did have a nice conversation briefly to take another half step with respect to putting together some costs for long-term sewer planning. So I think we've got some work yet to do, but I don't know if you've had a chance to digest or look at that, but I've got a little bit of data for us to continue on the process that we're on. I was glad to hear that. You know, real briefly, I don't think the costs have come down significantly in the 10 years since we've done some sewer lining. In fact, material costs are up a little bit here now in the last 6 months, just like everything else. But I think we can have competitive numbers and begin to put together some plans and have a partner, a local partner, frankly, who would be interested in helping us develop that. So I look forward to working with you and Jim and others to figure out the best way to efficiently spend limited dollars, just like always, right?
Yep. So I guess we take a step back and look at the big picture. Basically, what we've done is we've taken a map that you guys had done for us previously. Jim has gone through and highlighted all that he thinks as yet that needs to be done. You are working on taking that map and take it from hand drawing to something that we can look at and touch and feel. You've gone a step further and looked at with what Jim says is left to be done to the point where we would touch, if I understand correctly, every sewer in town, that we're talking about roughly, could be higher or lower, but roughly another $700,000 to line everything that he's identified that needs to be lined. In the way of context, if you go back, the last time we did it, and Cassandra, holler at me if I get the numbers wrong, but we borrowed roughly $700,000 before. We got $180,000 roughly forgiven on that loan, which happens when you borrow from IEPA, which means we borrowed, what was it, 524 at 1.25% interest, which is a rate I doubt that we can get today. And we owe, our remaining payoff balance is about 284. If you take what we have in the IEPA loan fund plus what we have in the sewer fund, we're about $80,000 to $90,000 short of paying off the existing loan. So strategically, I guess, we don't have enough money we don't have $700,000, obviously. We are looking for alternative funding. And so once we get the work done to understand everything that needs to be done, we can go at that harder, but everything we've seen at this point says grants are probably not likely for a town our size, or we probably would have to borrow, although Tony's going to the conference, what is it, IML conference, and then one of the things they have is getting federal funding for road and, for water and sewer projects. So he's going to go to that and see if there's anything that tells us. But most likely we're going to have to borrow again. Most likely it would be at a higher rate. And then we have to weigh what is doing sewer versus doing water. If we're gonna spend money, which is better for the town. If we are looking at sewer in a vacuum, my guess would be is we need to get down to the point where we could pay off the existing loan and then take out another $700,000, hopefully get it at an interest rate that's close to where we currently are, get the same forgiveness, and just replace the $2,500 we put back a month for what we're currently doing for the new portion, and we'd have the sewers done. But that assumes that that's more important than water and other priorities. So the other thing I would throw into it is that we have another $160,000 in trail money, which would get us all the way out. Along those lines, I did get contacted today, and Brandon, thank you for including me on the note, but I know you got contacted as well. There's a private organization that's looking at funding, and they asked through Tri-County, and they asked for our environmental study, and we provided that information to them. So I know that there's another year out there that they can consider doing the full 25 miles, and if they can find the private funding, then maybe that will happen. But if not, then, that would be okay, I suppose. We all wanted the trail, we just didn't want the cost and liability that went with it. So anyway, there's that $160,000 with the trail money that we could do something with. So I guess that's a long way to say is at least we're getting our arms around what it takes to finish the sewers and what it might cost us and a potential plan to attack that like we've done with the roads.
Well said. End of report. I don't have anything else to add. I'm happy to answer any questions. Stick around to answer them as they come up.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Attorney's report, Clay?
Yeah. Looks like nothing really to report that wasn't discussed with Bill previously. Yeah, but if there are any questions about ongoing business, please let me know. And again, it's a thing with everyone tonight.
Okay, thank you, Clay. Administrative report, Brian?
Okay, in your packet, you've got a deck with the financial slides, and then you've also got a sheet with how we're presenting cash at this point. This is month 2 of the new fiscal year. Because we made a lot of changes in the first part of the year that I've kind of talked about before, I kind of have to give you a version of this is what it actually looks like, and then this is another version that takes out the one-time only stuff to show you how we actually performed for the month or year to date. For the month, we didn't have a whole lot of one-time only things this time. If you follow the center column down, we had income of $165,586, expenses of $74,270, and variance of $91,316. The reason our income is up so high is this is the big property tax month. We get about 40% of our property taxes in the month of June. This is the first year, that $144,247, where we budgeted for roughly 40% of the property tax. So we're closer budget-wise than what we would have been historically because we made that adjustment. If you look at the expense side, our pot, we go 101 over 74 is a $27,000 variance. The thing I did is that 13,216 is on the 101,486 budgeted number. If I pull out the money that we just are going to move to savings, we know is not actually an expense, right? We're just moving that money to savings. If I back that out, then that 13,216 is what the variance would have been. So if I back $14,000 out, it shows that we're still positive, even if we take the savings out, okay? So the key thing on this note is that 91,316, that's actual for the month. We actually did that for the month, okay? If you look at the next slide, then you can see the breakdown of the June numbers. So you can see general, we were way positive. Again, most of that was property tax. Water, we were positive. Sewer, we were positive. And again, when you take out the money that we transfer to savings, I put those numbers out there. So the 55, 538, and 2938 all show that we were positive still, those amounts for the month, even if you take out what we moved over into savings. Fair enough? Okay, so June MFT, really not a lot of activity. As we get into the billing from the work that was just been done, we'll see changes to that moving forward. June TIF, again, property tax. We get all the TIF money comes in from the property tax money. You see that 91, 94, that's a big number, but remember the the residential portion of that is incrementally gone up, which would be a significant portion of it, is 80% of that we have to give back to the other taxing bodies. So that's really probably not 91, 94. It's more like probably $2,000 or something like that when you take that 80% out. BDD, we had a good month. We were a little bit better than plan on income with no expenses. And then if you look at the year-to-date core funds, so this is the next slide. This is actual. So this includes the transfers that we moved from water to sewer. This includes the $55,000 we spent on the skid steer. This includes the $25,000 we got in from Peoria County for the trail and so forth. So the key thing is if you take all of that and go down to that center column straight down, we did 96,129 positive year to date. Okay. Then if you go to the next slide, this shows the breakdown for general unemployment, water and sewer. So you can see water and sewer. We created sewer 52 on its own. So basically that 103 negative and the 113 positive is including just transferring money from water to sewer to create the sewer account. The one point I would make is on sanitation, that 17,000 is also property tax. We did not, and I'll take the responsibility for this, we did not budget the 40% for it, and we should have. So that number on the budget side should have probably actually been lower than what it was, but we didn't. That's the sanitation, that's all property tax. If you look at the next slide then, year-to-date core funds adjusted. So what I did is on the income side, I backed out the $25,000 of income we got from Peoria County for the trail. I backed out the $54,545 that we got paid for the skid steer and the $4,100 that we moved to MFT. On the water side, I backed out the $15,024.93,902 expenses that we moved to sewer, so we could get a better understanding of how we actually perform for the month. How we actually perform year to date if you take out the transfers and other things. So we were a little bit better than the 91. And then on the 16,205, we're still positive if you take out the 28,000 that we moved to savings. That's what that number represents. Next slide, if you look at the core funds, and then you can see how we've performed for each of the core funds. So general, we're way ahead. Water, we're actually about $2,000 behind if you take out the money we transferred to savings. And on sewer, about $1,500 to the bad if you take out the savings. The reason for that is on the water side, we have 2 months of performance, but only 1 month of new rates. So that'll eventually catch up. And on the sewer side, we paid for that tamper, $2,500 for it. And then we had a carryover of $4,500 on the lift station. So if you take out those two one-time only things, the sewer would be positive as well. So all that's to say we're performing decently. If you look at the MFT, then that $4,100 is the transfer amount that carried over. I think that was engineering fees that carried over from last year. So that's why that expense is in there year to date. TIF, no expenses to this point. BDD, no expenses to this point, and $20,000 of income. Only $600 difference between budget and actual on BDD, so we're getting better at budgeting what we think is going to come in. And then the last slide is the cash summary. So if you look at checking, we currently have $711,703 in checking. The monthly variance, we went up 104 from the previous month, property tax. Year-to-date variance, we're up 81,000 over the end of last year in checking. If you look at savings, we're 976,545 in savings. We're up 11,000 over last month, $48,000 over the end of last year. And then our total cash is 1,688,248. So monthly we're up 116, and year to date we're up 130. So again, cash is doing well. And then the next sheet shows you specifically, you can look at every cash item. So you can look at checking at the top, you can look at operating, and then the breakdown of operating with general unemployment, water, sewer, garbage, lagoon, veterans, MFT, TIF, and BDD. The IEPA loan and water escrow. What I've done is I've highlighted anything that was negative. So water was actually cash flow negative for the month, and the water escrow was actually negative for the month, but not by a bunch. And then the bottom is savings. So we basically have one account. We've got the buildings, trail, streets, water, sewer. The numbers in parentheses are the amount of money we transfer from checking into savings every month. And none of that is negative. Everything there's been positive. So really happy with the work Cassandra's done to get us to the point where we're reporting out this way. I wish we didn't have the one-time only stuff the first month of the year, but that was unavoidable because we have to keep explaining it. But the further we refine the budget, the better we're going to get at it. But bottom line is, through 2 months, we're positive on the income statement side, and we're positive on the cash side, and all is well. Questions for me? That's it.
Okay. Committee reports, finance, Mr. Johnson.
Nothing new more,
Do some planning.
from July 10th through July 16th, 10 incident reports. That does leave an 8-day gap, but I did not see that email for that 8-day gap, so. I went back and looked, and my last email ended July 2nd, this one started July 10th, so.
Still, even if you double it, it's lower than what it has been.
Yeah. I'm working pretty hard on
Yeah, I can tell.
You've been out there hitting the pavement.
it. Vigilante justice.
Out on your Barney Fife bike.
What days were you missing?
It'd be like the 3rd through the 9th or something like that. Yeah, it'd be 3rd through the 9th. Which I didn't check, I did not have an email covering that.
Ten to 16.
Do we know why it was missing, or?
You get the email for it, just noticed.
I got one on July 4. If it opens up. That's June 26th, 2nd through July 2nd. Already got that one.
Yeah.
I didn't get one, so I will.
Yeah.
I'll ask him about the 3rd to the 9th. Send him an email.
End of report.
Thank you.
Good work.
Sanitary sewer, Mr. Pearson.
Nothing to report?
Water, Mr. Pearson.
Yes, sir. 4 shut-offs for a total of $3,864.59. 0 level pay. One foreclosure for $985.57. Gallons sold, 2,215,990.
Anything else, sir?
No, sir.
Thank you. Buildings grounds, Mr. Weaver.
Nothing to report.
Streets and alleys, Mr. Weaver.
Don't have anything to report.
Okay. Under economic development, I know their meeting has been scheduled for August 15th.
And connected with the materials that I sent out, I sent you the presentation that we were going to use with the CEDC, so it was in the deck. that we sent, even though we won't go through it tonight, but I just wanted to see what we're gonna share with them. Basically, it just explains their role, what TIF is, what BDD is, and where we're at financially. That's about it. What projects we're looking at.
Administration, Mr. Miller?
Company cell phones. There's a law, I guess, that's cities are required to either provide a cell phone or reimburse for usage. There's two people in question, Roger, Brad. The average, I guess the other cities are paying $25, $30 a month for reimbursement for phones. They've declined company, whole phone for themselves. They don't want just a phone for the city. I kinda got mixed emotions about that, but.
Which is preferable. We prefer not to own 6 different phones.
Well, yeah, I don't mean they should have one.
Yeah.
I talked to Brian about it, which
Speak your mind.
they got their phone on anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I get if you're using it, like I told Brian, I said, back in the day when you only had so many minutes of your phone to use, that would have been a problem.
Yeah.
If somebody calls me 50 times a day, it doesn't matter because my phone's on no matter what, but it is a law.
It is a law for any company.
Right.
If you use your phone or a
Right.
personal computer for anything work-related, they have to reimburse you
Right.
somewhat.
And
There's-
$25 a month is cheaper than
A cell
the
phone.
whole phone bill. Yeah, I talked about, but.
I read through the law and I spent some time with Bill on this, and Clay, you can weigh in if you want, but basically, what we talked about is there's no requirement in terms of how much you have to pay. The key word is required. Are they required to use their phone for work-related things? Jim is, because of the nature of his work.
Jim has a company cell
He
phone.
has a company cell phone, and to your point, we don't want to take anything away from Jim, but if Jim all of a sudden said, I don't want a company cell phone, just give me I have my own phone and give me a stipend, that would be better financially for us.
100%,
Than what we do. I have a phone, and I think, and the primary reason that we do is because that they always have. But the other thing is because they don't necessarily want we spend enough time on it that we don't want our personal number dealing with water emergencies and those types of things. Cassandra and Tracy both have desk phones, and the amount of time that we actually require them, I mean, it's rare that I contact them on their cell phones. So there's really no requirement for them. So that leaves Roger and Brad. And at one time, Roger did have a company phone, but he didn't like having two or whatever, so he turned his in. But those guys, they're on call. They don't have a desk phone. They're out and about. So the nature of the work, there are times where I am calling them for work-related issues on their cell phone. And so according to the law and the definition, we're required to pay something to those guys.
Mm-hmm.
So we did some research and went out and looked at what the average was, and what I'm finding is $25 to $30. I talked to you, I called a couple other municipalities. So like I said, it's not a ton for them, but we are requiring them. We need to be compliant, I think, with the law. The amount doesn't really make any difference to me. That's just what the average has been.
What's a cell phone bill cost a month? $100? I don't know.
Probably. I mean, if you have unlimited data and I'm on Verizon, I think mine's like 120 or 130, something like that.
$25, 25% of their bill. They're not probably spending 25% of their stuff here, so.
Yeah. I mean,
That's what you get, right? 25?
I get 25 from work for use of my cell phone.
You're on call sometimes, so
I'm
same kind
on-
of deal as them.
But I also get an on-call pay during that on-call time. So.
Well, they do too. If they're on call, they get called in.
Well, yeah, not your hourly rate, just your phone. You're on call though for your phone. I mean, you're on call, so you have to use your phone at work, so
Right.
you get $25 a month, so similar to them, they're on call too, so,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I would be shocked if, you know, I rarely talk to Brad now. Roger talks to Brad more frequently than
And
I do.
I've talked to Brad, I think twice.
Yeah. And I probably talk, on his cell phone, Roger and I probably talk or text 3 or 4 times a week, maybe.
I would say I call Roger about daily for something.
So,
We talked about it like, I think I mentioned something to you like 5 or 6 months ago, because
yeah.
of that law, but,
Yep.
I know
And
they
the-
didn't want a phone, but.
And whatever we approve tonight, Cassandra's looking at, we look at the employee handbook every year. So whatever we decide, we'll use and we'll update with the employee handbook. We got a couple other minor modifications that we want to make eventually, but.
Because I'd rather, as a recommend, I'd rather be compliant. Because at this point, we don't have another cell phone. If we had one to give to Roger, if he, you know, because we've already turned that one in, we're not even being billed for that one anymore. And Tom's is no longer on our account. That was taken off, so our accounts come down quite a bit. So the process of spending $20, $30, you know, spending $60 for 2 people at a max, you know, just an idea.
The vast majority of places have taken advantage of this and just went across the board, like, oh, so a lot of the bigger places just give everybody $20 across the board, and and that's it. I mean, there you go. Everybody's got something for it. They're
It'd be
doing it.
hard to keep
To
track of,
chime in
so
on this real
I'll be
quick.
Only used 2 times a day.
Sure.
Yeah.
Say that again, Clay?
Just on the last point that was made, the $20 across the board it's a good idea. The most important part is that you're giving back. The government isn't just taking from people and not giving them anything back. So a solid flat rate is good. And with cell phones, it's difficult to calculate anyways, like you guys have been talking about. I send 3-4 texts a week. It's not something that anybody would expect you to nail down with any real particularity, so long as you're taking care of it.
Yeah, and that's what they do with, you know, some of our people aren't on call, but they still, you know, they're still going out to technician sites. They're still, you know, when they have an issue, they grab their cell phone. They don't try to go find the nearest phone. They just dial on their cell phone and using it, so they still get the $20 or 25 for us, sorry.
So I guess the question before us is, do we want to do something for Roger and Brad?
Well, it's not a fact if we want to, it's a matter of fact that we
Okay.
have to.
And if so, what amount do we want to? We had a motion, $20 for Roger and Brad, a month?
Is that a motion or is that just a discussion?
Oh, that's
No discussion until there's a motion.
That's right.
20 or 25?
Who did you talk to, other municipalities that were doing?
West Peoria and Princeville, I think were the 2. Roger had talked to somebody in Princeville.
And then I know, well, the Washington guys, they all have phones when I talk to the mayor.
The Germantown Works, Public Works, all of them have phones.
Right.
And what do they get?
No, they all
They'll
have.
have company.
Oh, they all have company
Yes,
phones.
it's a requirement.
A motion by Weaver. Second by Johnson. Discussion? No, I think 25 is a fair amount. And like Clay was saying, it shows that we're giving back to them, even though they're, you know, the government's just not taking, we're making sure that they're taken care of too, especially with the new law.
It's not new by any means. It's years old.
I thought it was like,
Oh, is it? I thought it was,
2019.
was it really?
Yes.
I thought it was just in the last year.
No, that's what I said. I mentioned like 6 months ago about that.
Okay, well, so I'm right on it, is what you're saying. I got.
So this is $25 each
Yeah, that's right.
$25 a month.
And have to tell me 5
person
times.
for
4 is
Brad.
plenty.
And for Roger. Yeah, Roger and Brad. I said Brad.
How do you prove that you're creating them? Tack on a paycheck, or do you gotta write? a
Expense
separate
check, expense, separate
You
expense
tack
check.
it, you add it to the.
That way it's not taxed and nothing comes out of it.
I would. Do we put it on there?
Ours is on our paycheck.
Oh, it is?
Ours is on our paycheck.
Do
Oh.
they
They
factor
did that at
taxes
OSF
in?
too.
Oh, do they really? Oh,
Yeah.
well,
My
we're a
mom-
little podunk company, so where I work, I think it's give them a separate check.
You can make it a tax exempt line item though.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
you can shelter it from
Yeah,
tax.
we're.
Yeah, because
We
it's
do
an-
our own paychecks.
because it's it's an expense, it's not a
Right.
earning, so we can,
Oh, they can make that line exempt then. from-
Right.
Oh, okay.
and so it doesn't get taxed, it's a
Oh,
flat.
she knows how to do
25.
that then, yeah. Oh.
So I have a motion by Weaver, I have a second by Johnson. We'll roll call it. Miller? Pearson?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Weaver? Motion carries. Other business. So this year I have decided to, and next time throw this under administration.
Yeah, we could have.
Give Mr. Miller some work to do. It's not hard.
Auditing your trip.
Yeah. Yeah, so I am going to the IML conference. This is the first time that I've ever gone. They do have quite a few different events that I'm looking in. Unfortunately, they do not have the water and sewer this year.
Oh,
It's
okay.
the roads.
Oh, okay.
It's for roads this year, the one that I want to go to, the federal funding for the roads. Anybody can go out to the iml.org page and see the 109th annual conference track listing there. So I've already laid out my days, which conferences or which I can attend based on when they are, so I can get the most of the money the village sending me up there. And actually, they're actually going to show, it'll be an after hours thing that's free for everybody attending the conference. Actually going to show all the Queen's horses.
Is it the documentary?
If you're not familiar with that, that is from the comptroller from Dixon, who stole all the money. It was like 53 million or 35.
Something stupid like that,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's kind of a how-to?
No,
But
no.
it mostly shows how they caught her.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah.
And how they have brought her down.
53 million of public funds across 20 years. Granted, she did have some of the best quarter horses in the United States,
Oh, yeah.
but
Her horse farm was the envy.
yeah.
Thanks to the people at Dixon.
So,
So if I understand right, Fred used to go to these on occasion.
yes.
Fred did, the IML one, I know he went early on. and
Yeah,
I
he
remember him
went-
saying, if you're on, he said, I'd suggest you go at least once early on to kind of get in the flow of things. I mean,
Yeah, and he had said and mentioned to me that I should go as well, but we decided it didn't make sense for both to go in the same
In
year.
Germantown,
So,
Ann goes every year.
so I may go next
Yeah,
year.
really.
Ann goes every year.
Yeah.
She's the
Um,
administrator of the boat.
Yeah.
So I would go, the conference is the 15th through the 17th. I would go up the night of the 14th, stay the night. On the 15th, stay the night of the 16th. And then come home on the 17th. Instead of having the extra night of expense on the 17th, I would just check out and go to the conference that day and then come home. Because there's just a whole bunch of banquets and awards that evening that I'm really not interested in wasting time because we're not getting any of them, so.
No, that attitude.
Yeah, come on.
But my conference, and hotel, is $1,300. And I know it's also normally incidentals because I'll be driving up for mileage. So. It's at Chicago and it's at the Hilton. I've never stayed at a Hilton in my life. So,
It's a nice hotel.
that's what I see. And then there's supposed to
Ann
be,
likes it.
she likes it. She goes every year.
She goes every year.
Rich communities that can do that.
It's Germantown Hills, huh?
So I would entertain a motion to approve my expenses for the Second.
Motion by Weaver, second by Pearson. Any further discussion? Roll call it. Pearson?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Weaver?
Yes.
Miller? Motion carries.
You expect a full presentation.
Yeah,
Oh, I will.
including puppets and interpretive dance.
Interpretive dance? No.
With the ribbon.
Our next board meeting is August 2nd, 2022. 6 PM.
Winter won't be a problem.
No correspondence. Anybody else have anything else that needs to come before the board? Brandon, are you going to the conference?
You know, it's funny, I've been doing this over 25 years and I've never been.
Yeah, it shows.
You talk about other communities, we used to, I don't think we do it as much as we used to. Teams of people who would go up there and, host events and you can really get a lot out of it. I know that there are a lot of opportunities, whether it be insurance and grants and funding and legal stuff and keeping up with all that. I know it's very valuable to people, but no, I've never been.
Yeah, I saw invigorating downtowns, Farnsworth, Wayne Aldrich
Uh-huh.
will be there with the town of Normal going through discussion. I'm actually gonna sit in on that one.
Yeah, Wayne was the city administrator for town forever and ever, and he's joined us in retirement, part-time to help out with those sorts of things. So that's exactly it, to be able to learn from some of the folks who've been doing it forever and ever. I know people usually walk away feeling glad that they've gone, so I'm glad to hear you're going.
Nothing else to come before the board? Meeting adjourned.
Thanks,
Have a great
Brandon.
evening, everybody. Take care all.
See you guys.
Clay. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Ron.